Hello everyone, Dave Landry here from DaveLandry.com. This is Trading Simplified. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I want to continue to show the methodology in action, and I think that's important. And then maybe when things settle down a little bit, we can get back to trading psychology and maybe a little money management, so those other things I'd like to talk about so much. But for now, I think it's important that we stick with what's happening with the methodology and current markets. And along those lines, I've got two brand new mystery charts for you. They're both IPOs. And then I want to get back into the profit centers and pick up where I left off last week on the alt coins. And that'll make a lot more sense in a few minutes. I also want to show you a pattern, one of my favorite patterns called Landry Light Pullbacks. And again, that'll make sense too. Housekeeping, I do take requests. You can send them to DaveLandry.com/contact. And I welcome them. It gives me something to talk about. And if not in this particular show, if it doesn't fit this format, I can cover it in a lot more detail in my weekend charts, which is the free format type of show. If you would like the slides from this presentation, all three of my books in PDF format, limited access to the members area, market timing course, and a plethora of other stuff, go to DaveLandry.com/StockCharts. All right, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the mystery charts and the methodology in action. This first chart here, as you can see, it came public, took off, went straight up, and then it has begun to pull back. This is what I call a first deep retracement. A little hard to see without the numbers on the right-hand side, but this is a fairly deep retracement. So an entry would be somewhere above the recent highs. Stop down here, and if it triggers, I'll show you the exact parameters so we see how it worked out. This is actually a recommendation for today. Today is April 13, 2021. Anyway, initial profit target would be up here just above the chart. And here's another one, looks pretty much the same. As you can see, nice uptrend and then followed by a deep pullback. Entry right around here above the recent highs. Stop would go down here. And if you have time, go and watch last week's Dave Landry's The Weekend Charts, www.youtube.com/C as in Charlie/Dave Landry. And in that, I talked a lot about setting stops, especially with something like IPOs. So we won't spend a lot of time on that today. Again, initial profit target is going to be up here. And I'll follow up with that one over the next couple of weeks. Good, bad, or indifferent. Now, let's continue with the methodology in action. And I want to show you in a little bit of detail the Landry Light Pullbacks. And once I show you this pattern, I'm going to go out into Bitcoin, or the altcoins, I should say, and we'll look for some of these patterns. So this is ASO. And right when the moving average began plotting on the chart, you could see the stock had pulled back to it. And with the first deep retracement, as I just alluded to, we're looking for a strong thrust, kind of an IPO to go pretty much straight up out the gate, and then have a very deep retracement. A little hard to see with the scaling based on this chart because it's ran so far, but if we zoom in a little bit, it'll make a lot more sense. And I call those an FDR for first deep retracement. So let's zoom in, and you can see that the stock ran from 1250 to 18 pretty quickly, and then it dropped all the way back down to 15, and it tagged that moving average. So with the Landry Light Pullback, we're looking for daylight, meaning that the lows are greater than the moving average, and then we're looking for price to come down and give that moving average a little bit of a kiss. And you can see right here, this is our entry, and it didn't do a whole lot at first, but then it began to rally nicely. Now notice all the Landry Light, meaning that the lows are greater than the moving average, just simply by looking at the chart. Or you can look down here, and by the way, this is the ACP plugin, free to anyone who likes this video. So like the video, and you get a plugin for free. Free. Anyway, we pull back to the moving average, as you can see, and it's evidenced down here with the Landry Light indicator. This just counts the number of days, not the magnitude, number of days that the low is greater than the moving average for upside, or high is less than the moving average for downside. I've tricked a lot of people in one of my courses where I talk about Landry Light, and then I say it measures the magnitude as a true-false question. Everybody thinks it measures the magnitude. It does not. So many people got it wrong. They think there's something wrong with the system. It just counts simply the number of days. And the great thing is, when you see these really high numbers in here, 50 or 60 or even maybe 100 or so, you know that this market is overbought. Doesn't mean that it's going to correct tomorrow, but it's probably due to correct And if you're long something like this, probably a good time to take profits when you see these longer term Landry Light numbers getting pretty high in here, 40 or 50, or even, as I said a second ago, 100 or more. Now, if you don't use indicators, and I don't use a whole lot of indicators, only on occasion do I plot a moving average and the Landry Light indicators that you have down here below. But I do look at a blank chart first, and then I see if there's a big blue arrow that can be drawn. And then occasionally I will put the moving average in and my other indicators that are in the ACP platform. For the most part, though, I always start with a blank chart before adding any indicators whatsoever. I think price is the ultimate oscillator. And I think the other awesome thing about the Landry Light is that the lows will be greater than the moving average on a big price move. It's not like you're waiting for that moving average to catch up to price. Moving average in and of itself has a little bit of lag, which sometimes actually works to our advantage with something like bow ties. It keeps you from getting maybe too bearish too soon or maybe too bullish too soon by waiting for the crossing. But in this case, with the Landry Light, we're simply waiting for the low to cross above the moving average. So the price makes a sharp move, it'll get above that moving average quickly. Again, you're not waiting for a turn up, a turn down, or a crossover. So again, we're long from way back here, and we took partial profits a long time ago. But let's say you just saw this pullback recently to the EMA, and you wanted to trade this Landry Light. A plausible entry would be around here with a stop down here. And then as you can see, not a whole lot happened for a while, but then eventually it began to move in our favor. So a plausible IPT would be somewhere up here, and now your stop is at break even. So worst could happen is a scratch, barring overnight gaps on the remainder of the position. So Landry Light Pullbacks, very simple setup. I just wanted to show you that in here. This one's left over from last week. You can see we had downside Landry Light for a long time, mostly. So there's nothing to do unless, of course, you're looking to try to get short. And then we had nice upside Landry Light. Now notice that you don't have to wait for the moving average to catch up or anything, because price just jumps above it and then you immediately get upside Landry Light. So that sort of takes a little bit of lag out of a moving average or purely moving average based system. As you can see down here, tons and tons of Landry Light. Stock pulls back to the EMA. Now, usually I don't like this many days in a pullback, but this is a coal stock. It's commodity related, and I find in commodity related stocks, you could be a little bit more lenient, give them a few more days in the pullback, accept a little bit more choppy behavior, and maybe in general look for a little less perfection. Entry was here, stop was down here. This is the actual trade I took and also recommended it before I took it. And you can see it rallied up, hit the initial profit target, almost stopped us out in the remainder, but fortunately continued to rally and just continues to consolidate. It's kind of boring in here, but let's just see what happens, and we'll follow up with this one in future shows. This may have been a mystery chart, I'm not sure. All right, let's shift gears here and continue along the lines of trading a little slightly more complicated. Now, I've been talking a lot about profit centers lately, and a profit center, just real quick, is ancillary profitable techniques, ideally non-correlated to the core methodology or in non-correlated markets. Now, one thing I've been talking a lot about too, and especially in my weekly charts, is trend following in the altcoins. And I would recommend you use the same exact patterns as you use in the core methodology. And you might be thinking, well, this guy's going off on this altcoin tangent. He's kind of crazy about altcoins right now. It's like, well, that's the church of what's happening now. Keep in mind, I'm going to use these same exact techniques in any other emerging market or any other market that emerges, so to speak, in the future. So altcoins is just the church of what's happening now. When it all stops working, then I'll move on to something else. Now, keep in mind, I haven't lost sight of my core methodology, and the majority of my portfolio remains in the longer-term trend following mode, but I will do some intraday trading here and there, and also trade in ancillary markets such as altcoins as one of my profit centers. Now, if you get into a relative strength / breakout type of market where everything is just going up, then you could trade the highest relative strength coins. And as I said in last week's Dave Landry's Weekend Charts, I had one client who told me recently that he paid for 2 down payments on his investment properties by simply staying long the top 5 or so stocks and my Landry list, which is a call list that I put out every night, list of the favorite stocks that are set up for the next day. And he would just simply, he had a simple little app he put on his phone, and he would just buy the top 5 and just ride them all day long. Now, as I often say, keep in mind that everything works better with trend. So if you're in a rip-roaring bull market, that's going to work pretty good. If the market's kind of chopping around or trying to find its way or kind of mixed, as we've seen a little bit in more recent times, it's not going to work quite as well. So let's shift gears and go over to the altcoins and take a look at what's happening. As I've been saying lately, I asked the people at StockCharts.com to provide me more altcoins, provide you with more altcoins, and they accommodated. They've been very accommodating to a lot of my needs, which has been fantastic, including this plugin, by the way, which they did a fantastic job on. And all I did here was I put Landry Light, clicked on that one right there, and that's made the charts look like this. And then the next thing I did was I sorted the altcoins by relative strength, just to show you that you have a lot of green over here. When you see a lot of green over here, if you remember last week, we hardly had any whatsoever. It was mostly red. That's not a momentum type of market where you want to be buying relative strength. So when you see a lot of green over here on the right, take a look at some of the ones high up in the list and consider purchasing them as a possible trade. Now, keep in mind that you got to be really careful and you got to be willing to get out quickly if you're wrong. And I'm not a huge breakout player, but when you're in a momentum market like this, you could simply sometimes just buy the new highs. And you could do the same things in stocks, but keep in mind that everything works better with trend. So I'm long some of these ones that are up here doing really well, such as ADA. I'm long Ethereum. And again, if you're buying these, it's kind of scary buying brand new highs, but you can put a stop in right below the low, but only being a keyword in that sentence when you're in a momentum market. Bitcoin itself is actually doing pretty darn good, 5% overnight. Now let's shift gears and let's do these in alphabetical order, and let's see if I can point out some of my patterns and some ideas for trading them, in addition to obviously the relative strength game. So BAL, you can see nice Landry Light here, lows greater than moving average, or you can look down here and you can see it pulls back to the moving average. Landry Light goes to 0 right here. Plausible entry somewhere in here possibly, and it hasn't done a whole lot since, but at least the trend remains up. Now BAND, as you can see, it did make a pullback right here. Nice Landry Light higher. Plausible entry probably about right here, and you can see it really hasn't triggered in a long time. Now you may, if you're playing relative strength, you may have considered this breakout here. By the way, keep in mind that most breakouts fail, so I don't want to make it sound like they always work and they're the greatest things in sliced bread. In fact, in stocks, you're going to find more often than not a breakout will fail. The only place I actually play breakouts in stocks is in IPOs, and then in other markets, these emerging markets such as the altcoins, I'll play breakouts here too. Now, BAT, you know what they do? I have no idea. As I said last week, when I first started looking at these, I tried to figure out what they do. It's kind of the same thing I did when I first started trying to figure out stocks. And then I realized that, hey, just buy the ones that go up, sell the ones that go down. That's pretty much all you have to do. And as you can see, nice little Landry right here, pull back to the EMA right here, okay? You get long somewhere in here, and then obviously trail a stop higher and hold on. I know, easier said than done, haha. But with these altcoins, like any other market, make sure you're taking some partial profits along the way. It would be a shame to give up such a big rally and not take something home. Go in and watch the money management shows that we've done. Go in and watch the money management module on my website if you have time. Now let's take a look at this one. You can see just a tremendous trend in here. Now here's a pullback. It didn't go all the way back to the moving average, but I would consider this a decent little pullback in here. And this is why I don't believe in a purely mechanical system, but sometimes they will pull back to the moving average like it did right here and give you a setup. Now in this particular case, it kind of meandered for a while. I wouldn't see that as a possible setup by taking so long to get down there. Now in a case like this, after kind of pulling away from it and pull it back, if it tagged it here, I'd be more excited about it. But right here looks like a pretty decent pullback. So just kind of a generic pullback would be a good way to trade. And you probably would still be long if you played that last little pullback. Everybody's favorite, let's take a look at Bitcoin. As I said in prior weeks, plain as the nose in your face, we had a Landry Light Pullback way back here. And if memory serves, now you can check to make sure I'm being 100% honest, but I do remember putting it in the Facebook group. I did play this back here. Nice Landry Light as evidenced by the lows greater than moving average, or just look at the Landry Light here, pull back to the moving average, pull back to the moving average. Plausible entry somewhere in here. It didn't do a whole lot at first, but then it took off nicely, as you can see. Now let's take a look at more recent times, and as you can see, another Landry Light pullback in here, and then yet another one right here. You can look at the chart, or you can look down here at the indicator and see nice Landry Light, and then bam, pull back to the moving average. Now, if you're playing a breakout kind of market, right now, again, since we got a lot of green over here, be a good time to just hop in and then be willing to stop yourself out at the low of the breakout bar. In a case like this, you might want to give it a little bit more room, maybe down below the 30-day EMA. Let's continue on. COMP, this is kind of wide and loose and sideways as of late, but once again, and this should get you excited. If you're not getting excited, then maybe I'm doing a bad job, but you can see nice Landry Light back here, pull back to the EMA. I'm a little bit more lenient with something like Bitcoin, which I see as, again, an emerging market. I don't look for quite as much perfection as I look for in stocks. Plausible entry, let's see right here. Stop maybe down here below the low. If you could have held through this, you'd be breaking even by now. Maybe that wasn't the best one to get excited about, but I'm a nerd. I get excited when I see some of these patterns setting up. Dash, nice breakout, nice thrust higher past the EMA or above the EMA, lows greater than the EMA. Take a look at Landry Light down here, back to 0 as it intersects. Also notice in the chart, even though it didn't hit here, I would be looking at this market as a TKO at this particular juncture. But it did pull all the way back. Plausible entry, maybe there, maybe a little bit lower, could have triggered you in, and then a stop down here, at least below the low, maybe even a little bit lower. Again, you should be able to see this pattern over and over. Now, this case here, you didn't have a tremendous amount of Landry Light, but it did go straight up, so I would consider that worthy. And then it pulls back to the moving average, also kind of a TKO. Blast higher, consolidates, takes off again, and then nice little TKO move. Probably would have knocked you out of the trade, but so what? As I say, if you hold on that long, and you've got, what, a quadruple on something like this, so long, and thanks for all the fish, is what I say. And you can see, might be worthy soon of considering as a possible. Let's take a look at Ethereum Classic. And you should be able to see these patterns repeating over and over again. Back here wasn't a fantastic setup because it didn't really trigger on this TKO move. But then maybe on this breakout, you would consider getting long somewhere along the way, when, of course, there's nothing but green over here. For instance, Ethereum. I got long Ethereum this morning. Okay, a little late to the game, but I'm long a plethora of other coins. And the reason I got long was it was one of the top performers this morning. And I think, if memory serves, my stop is right below the low. Now, keep in mind, when you do play the breakouts, be prepared to be wrong a lot, but it comes with the territory. The good news is, sooner or later, you're going to capture a really big move if you're patient enough, and you only trade when everything is sort of blowing and going. In other words, when you see, again, a lot of green over here, then you want to consider trading the breakouts in and of themselves, as opposed to waiting for the pullback. Now, if you're newer to trading, I would caution you about trading breakouts and suggest that you trade mostly pullbacks and wait for pullbacks to the EMA as you get better and better in trading. Or if you're a little more seasoned, then by all means, look to trade the breakouts. This is one that I played the breakout here, and then we had the TKO move, nice move higher. And then here's another case right here where it might be worth going after. You have a nice little pullback, and you kind of have a TKO type of move. Even though we didn't tag the moving average, it looks kind of interesting. Plausible entry, maybe in here somewhere. So you'd be long this one. And then maybe consider stopping yourself out if you get down below this low, say around 125. I know that seems kind of crazy, but if we were to put the volatility onto this chart, you would see that it's through the roof. In fact, let's just do that real quick. We click on Landry volatility right here, and you could see that the 50-day historical volatility is 147, and that's pretty big. Usually in a stock, if it has a volatility that high, I'm hesitant to trade it. Now, once again, you should be able to see these patterns with a little bit of experience. KSM, this is one I like because when it trends, it really trends. And it's kind of extreme back here, but this is kind of a bit of a TKO. Maybe a breakout here if back then we were in a momentum market. And notice how this 30-day EMA, and this amazes me. I know I'm a nerd, but I get excited when I see this. And as I teach it, I get even more excited. But it's amazing that this 30-day EMA sometimes can contain these absolutely wonderful trends. And all you have to do, I know, easier said than done, is just make sure your stop is well below that 30 EMA and hold on. So not a whole lot to do there, again, unless we get into a breakout type of market and it begins to obviously break out. Keep in mind, I'm not trading huge size in these altcoins, at least not yet. So one thing I haven't done yet, and it's probably no big deal at the present time, but eventually I'm going to have to look into it, is which ones are thin and maybe avoid those because of the spreads and might be more difficult to get out of. But for now, I think if you're trading a small account, I think a lot of these are worth going after. Litecoin, not thin. Plenty of people trade this. Nice trend here, TKO. It really didn't trigger on the TKO, so I would say that pattern is negated. But again, if you were playing a breakout and this one was up sharply, you might consider it on that day there when it began to break out, or certainly on this day here. Came down again, tagged the EMA. It didn't do a whole lot. So nothing to get excited about here. But now, since remember, we have a lot of green over here, especially if we sort by percent change, now it'd be worth getting long a market like this and then possibly stop yourself out below the low. One of my clients watched last week's show and got excited about one of the ones I was in, and he flipped out some other ones that he was in. He was a little bummed out because the ones that he was in started working, and then the one that I was in failed miserably. And I told him, I was like, John, these things are like a bus. Another one's going to come along in 10 minutes. Now, again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you're newer to trading, I would go with some sort of almost mechanical pattern like a Landry Light Pullback. Look at this. Nice little Landry Light Pullback. Tiny Elvis coming out, okay? Pullback to the EMA. Plausible entry, maybe about right here. You could have gotten a little bit more aggressive entry, would have gotten you along here. But you could see nice thrust higher, plenty of time to take profits along the way, and then trail that stop higher on the remainder. It's that simple. I never said easy, but it's that simple. Believe me, trading is hard, and these gurus out there tell you about how much money you can make. They are flat out lying to you. So trading is hard, and don't get sucked into what these gurus are saying. The good news is a lot of those guys are going to jail now, but I digress. As you can see, nice Landry Light here, back here. This is MKR. What do they do? I have no idea. Plausible entry somewhere in here. Nice thrust higher. Another pullback to the EMA, and it really hadn't done a whole lot in quite a while. So again, I would treat this now as a potential breakout market and only trade it if it really starts going up in earnest. Now, in you can see we did have the Landry Light pullback back here. Plausible entry probably never would have entered or triggered, I should say. It's gone sideways for quite a while, so nothing to do there unless, of course, it starts going up. OMG, you can see Landry Light here, pullback. There would have been no trigger on this unless, of course, you played a breakout for some particular reason. Maybe right here, if you're in a breakout market, it might be worth a shot. But now that it's begun to pull back a little bit in here, I think it would be worth a shot, even if it doesn't get all the way back to the EMA. If you're newer, again, to Bitcoin, or crypto, I should say, then by all means, let it pull all the way back to the EMA. If you're a little bit more seasoned, then you can look to play some of those more shallow pullbacks. Now, Quantum is one that I was recently long, but got stopped out of. But you can see here, nice Landry Light higher. This pullback here looks interesting, and I may have gotten long here and then got knocked out. I know. A guru showing you a losing trade, right? But the good news is after it pulls back to the EMA, it looks like it has the potential to continue on. Really didn't do a whole lot. Maybe the breakout here would have been a good play. But now that it's begun to pull back, like the one we looked at a few minutes ago, I would keep an eye on that one. So I'm just going to go through these real quick to save a little time. This SC trends really nicely. This is one I actually love. Look at that little Landry Light there. Tiny Elvis just came out. Pull back to the EMA. Take it off again. Getting ready to set up again. So that's one that I will be going long once again based on that pattern. Here's another one. And when this thing goes, it really goes. You can see Landry Light back here. Pull back to the EMA. It took a while to get started. You probably would have given up on this particular pattern, or that pattern is no longer valid, I should say. But then you had a little breakout back here and certainly a breakout here, which you may have caught by watching the percentage change over here. And then now it's pulled back almost to the EMA. I think it's worth a shot. Maybe enter around $3 or so and then see what happens. And believe it or not, you need a pretty wide stop down here, and then broadcast that up about $1. That would be your initial profit target. Now here's one I love to trade. I do have a position here. If memory serves, I played the breakouts back here. Probably got stopped out pretty quickly. But I am long once again in this particular case. You can see a little bit of a pullback, not much of a pullback, but then this thing began to really trend. It's up 14%, as you can see overnight. So far, so good on that one. So here's another case of a breakout type of market. You may have gotten long in this breakout and then have a stop down below the low, just ed case. You can see Landry Light, pull back to EMA, Landry Light, pull back to EMA, rinse and repeat. Now, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Everything works better with trend. It's a blue bonnet of markets. Just like everything's better with blue bonnet on it, everything works better with trend. Let's take a look at this one. As you can see, nice thrust higher. Nice little pullback to the EMA. That should get you excited, seeing this pattern over and over again, right? Trigger around here, stop down here. Didn't do a whole lot at first, but then bam, winning. Now here's one. I actually tried getting long this one at 70 cents, like right around here. And I couldn't find a broker that would take my order. So if you guys know a broker where I could trade XRP, please let me know in the comments down below. I have Kraken, I have Pro Coinbase, and I also have a Gemini account. And in none of those accounts will it let me buy the XRP unless it's operator error. But it's frustrating because I looked to get long on that breakout and I was not able to get any shares off. So just for what it's worth, these are the ones that I'm currently long in here. Some of these, such as EOS or breakout kind of plays, and then these other ones are more of pullback type of plays in here. So just these are the ones that I'm long. Take a look at these. Let's see what happens next week, and I'll follow up on them. So by the way, I do have a Facebook group. I encourage people to ask questions there so I can answer them, and we have a lot of other great traders in the group that can also chime in with answers. Now, you do have to be a member of DaveLandry.com. That's at least a gold member. It's a paid membership. You get to interact with other traders, including myself. You can ask for help, and I'm surprised at the amount of my clients. I'm so proud of them that will jump in and help, especially the newbies out. New to the methodology or just new to trading in general. And you can see the signs and signals. Every now and then I'll throw out an opening gap reversal. We'll talk about the altcoins and some IPOs and things like that. Well, that's all my time. Again, if you need follow-up information, DaveLandry.com/StockCharts. I'll send enough information to you to keep you busy for a long time. If you need to reach me, DaveLandry.com/contact. I want to thank everybody for watching, and may the trend be with you.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.